Ever wanted to know how you relate to others based on astrology? Well, today we're going to talk all about synastry by looking to Mars-Mercury aspects. In this video, we will cover the conjunction and the opposition, but if you would like to explore the sextile, trine, and square, that is available for our channel members below. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Hannah and welcome back, Cosmic Warriors. Before we do dive into today's video, if you want to learn more about astrology, then head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast. And if you would like to book a synastry reading with myself, then go to hannahselsewhere.com. I also want to mention that if you would like to learn more about exploring your transits and your returns simply, then there is the cheat sheets available to do that. All of the links to my guides and cheat sheets will be below. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's do this. Okay, so first and foremost, you want to make sure to watch the introduction video to synastry, which I will also put below, as well as videos about aspects. Yeah, because I recommend watching those first. Though for the purpose of this series, I will focus on the 5 major aspects. Do also look at degrees to get a clear picture. And you can always book a synastry reading with myself and I can guide you based on your unique chart. Though, what does Mars represent in relationships? Mars points to drive, initiation, how we pursue in our relationships, how we go after the things we want, or the way we go after someone we are attracted to, how we also express our anger and frustrations within relationships, how we handle conflict and disagreement, our libido, and what motivates us within our relationships as well. What we think is sexy and hot, as well as our personal satisfaction and how we pursue our desires. Mars can also indicate things like rage, fighting, and unhealthy aggression. Then, what does Mercury represent in relationships? Well, Mercury points to communication, our intellect, how we speak within our relationships, how we connect the dots when relating to another, our tone of voice, the language and vocabulary we use, and how our message is both conveyed and received. How does our message land? What kind of messages come up when we reflect on what another person says? Now, Mercury can also point toward miscommunication, arguments, clashes in perspective, disagreement, and intellectual superiority. Now, the condition of Mars and Mercury in your chart is important here, so you really want to look at the condition of those planets in your chart and the other person's chart, whoever is involved. And do also look to progress planets for more information, especially when looking to how your relationships evolve over time, right? The following information, though, can be applied to love, friendship, and family relationships, and I will use some examples throughout. Though, just to explore here, Mars-Mercury aspects in synastry, what are they all about? Well, they are about the connection between what we crave sexually and what our libido is like within our relationships, which is very Mars, and then how we communicate those desires, which is very Mercury. What our energy levels and drive are like within our relationships, Mars, and the way we convey our message as we motivate and act, Mercury. How we react with anger, annoyance, and frustration, right? So how we show anger, which is very Mars, and the way our anger is communicated and heard, Mercury. How we might set goals and show our willpower, which is very Mars, and then how we arrive to conclusions and think logically about our goals, which is very Mercury. The types of things that make us feel personally satisfied, Mars, and the way we communicate those very wants respectfully, Mercury. Aggression and disagreements, Mars, mixed with unhealthy communication that can be attacking and minimizing, Mercury. At best, we see themes of using words of motivation and encouragement here, yes, seeking to stand up for our relationship verbally, and showing great honor and virtue as we discuss significant conversations. Though at worst, we see themes of taking things too far, okay? Being rude with our words, saying things we often cannot take back, or just being very regretful, basically, and using language to get what we want, even if it means overlooking the other. So let's explore Mars conjunct Mercury in Synastry. This is the fusion of one person's motivations, drive, willpower, aggression, and libido with another person's communication style, thought, and intellect. And so they might bond over similar interests and goals. As the Mars person encourages and motivates the Mercury person, the Mercury person is quick to share with the Mars person. This pairing can have really engaging and vibrant conversations, stimulating discussions that could go on for hours, honestly, and they're likely to share what they really think directly, openly, honestly with one another, depending on the signs involved, of course, right? Still, they can be clear with one another. As the Mars person gets the mental language of the Mercury person gets the driven language of the Mars person. However, a challenge they can often experience is tied to too much arguing, too much debating, too much of this trying to outdo the other intellectually, right? Yeah, they can run into a few arguments that are quite cutting. Sure, they are also likely to patch things up and reach conflict resolution, perhaps quickly, but if too many heated arguments occur, they might find that the relationship becomes exhausting, right? It becomes really, really draining because it's like we're always arguing, we're always fighting. This is also where active and conscious listening is needed, very much so, because often it is the delivery of their message that can be a lot. A few words can also get lost in the conversation, right? And so they must learn to slow down, be attentive to the other with greater mindfulness. So let's go with some examples here. Mars in Scorpio with the Mercury in Scorpio. Okay, so they're going to be able to bond over maybe their similar ways of being quite private people, being able to keep certain things to themselves, their strategies, their methods. The Mars in Scorpio person might get that mental language from the Mercury in Scorpio person of, okay, the Mercury in Scorpio person isn't so open very quickly, and they might take their time to really trust and open up. But then at the same time, the Mercury in Scorpio person may get this driven language by the Mars in Scorpio person in that, yeah, the Mars and Scorpio person, they can be very strategic about their goals or their direction. However, yes, this is also what I'm trying to say here, is that there could be this energy of things being too much. So what I imagine for these people is whenever they do step into an argument or a disagreement, maybe their words can be rather cutting. They can get right to the core, right to the heart of a situation, and that could cause maybe some explosive conversations, debates, heated arguments, this type of stuff. However, with that being said, sure, we can also argue that there is some type of respect, I think, maybe because, hey, you know, we can be honest with one another here. It's this type of thing that could be going on within the relationship. Then let's go with Mars in Taurus with a Mercury in Taurus. So these opposite signs, right? So there's going to be this mutual sort of understanding, bonding over the material, over what is practical, over what is manageable and doable, realistic. Both of them maybe being quite grounded in their approach. So with the Mars in Taurus person, they might get the mental language of the Mercury in Taurus person, in that maybe the Mercury in Taurus person is going to be a bit slower to share or open up, or for them it's important to be thorough, it's important to be methodical, to think things through, and then that's going to connect well with the Mars in Taurus person, because for them they're going to be driven in this way. So the Mercury in Taurus individual is going to get this slow driven influence energy coming from the Mars in Taurus individual. However, yes, what can also enter the picture here is a lot of stubbornness. When both of them have made up their mind, for the Mercury in Taurus especially, for the Mars in Taurus, it could be something that they're sticking to their guns about when it comes to a goal or an aim of theirs. So yeah, whenever they both make up their mind, they can be fixed. They can be immovable. Let's put it that way. And then that's also where there could be this tension. It's this thing of who's going to budge, who's going to move. So indeed, whilst yes, we do see this familiarity, this comfort that can be present, it is a case of, okay, well, when disagreements do arise, how do they navigate that? How do they manage that? This is where maybe active listening comes in. This is maybe where it's important for them to both recognize what they value, what each person values. And for the Mercury and Taurus, they're going to communicate that perhaps more clearly, more effectively. For the Mars and Taurus, they're going to show that through their actions. I hope you are enjoying this video so far, and if you are, then please be sure to give the video a like and to subscribe for more if you haven't already. And if you would like to learn more about astrology, then you can always pick up a copy of my astrology cheat sheets. The links are down below, including the transits and returns cheat sheets, which are very new. Thank you. Moving on to Mars opposite Mercury in Synastry. So this is where we notice a pretty dynamic back and forth, a push and pull, me versus you influence. Yes, as the Mars person pulls in one direction as they attempt to take the lead, the Mercury person pulls in the opposite direction with the things they want to communicate and say. The Mars person might perceive the Mercury person as being too logical. It's all about logic and reason and rationale. As the Mercury person perceives the Mars person as being too focused on their own wants, their own motivations, their own passions, maybe looking to them as being a bit more selfish in their view, right? The Mars person also might think that the Mercury person is trying to pick a verbal fight with them. Like they want to argue for the sake of arguing, or like the Mercury person is trying to push their buttons. And then the Mercury person might think that the Mars person is trying to challenge them or push on them too much. Like they want to have their way without considering the Mercury person's views and perspectives. Now, on a positive note, they can work together, but it does require some effort and awareness. For example, the Mars person might need to understand that just because the Mercury person raises a point that they disagree with, it is not a personal attack on the Mars person from the Mercury person. That way, maybe the Mars person won't act so defensively or take things so personally. They can see it as the Mercury person simply sharing a different point of view. But then at the same time here, the Mercury person might need to understand that when the Mars person expresses anger or when they need to be direct, it doesn't mean that the Mars person has issues, right? These personal issues with the Mercury person, especially because the Mercury person can read into things, right? They might overthink the whole thing or overanalyze it. Now, if both parties can be clear about their motivations and their intentions within their conversations, they can work well together. It's about the Mars person seeing that the Mercury person needs to process and think things through. As the Mercury person sees that the Mars person can be quite passionate, okay? They can feel very passionately about how to move forward and make things happen. All right, so let's go with a couple of examples here. Let's go with a Mars in Leo with a Mercury in Aquarius. The thing about these two signs, I think, is whilst Leo is going to be more concerned about their individual path or direction, they can be great leaders, especially Mars and Leos, great leaders. At the same time, Aquarius can be more about their own uniqueness, their freedom, their independence, their own way of doing things. They might not conform often to what other people think or say, or what other people think that the Aquarius should do. So as you can probably tell then, this could be where there are some issues that could arise, because as a Mars and Leo might be trying to strive towards one path, one direction, maybe a creative path, for example, that they're both taking part in. the Mercury in Aquarius could pull back and can possibly be quite rebellious for the sake of being rebellious, or being different, just being different for the sake of being different. Or they could be really firm in on, okay, this is my uniqueness, this is my perspective. So there are going to be clashes then. However, at the same time, if a Mercury in Aquarius is trying to maybe communicate a different perspective, because they do often have different perspectives, and the Mars in Leo maybe overlooks that perspective or diminishes it a little bit, or they're so stuck on their sort of direction or what they want, again, there's going to be issues here. And then that's where certain things can get lost, miscommunication can happen. So I think something to keep in mind with this combo is to respect that they are going to approach things from their own individual points of view, and that it's about being open to that collaborative process. Maybe to check in and recognize when there is connection that's trying to be formed, and then for both parties not to miss that or overlook that. It's trying not to overlook the connection that they can share, that they can have, because when they do come together on a positive note here, they can work really, really well together. I mean, the conversations they have can be fun, engaging, lively, creative. They can bounce off one another really, really well whenever they're not stuck on trying to maybe control what they both want. Then let's go with a Mars in Capricorn with a Mercury in Cancer. Okay, so for a Mercury in Cancer, we're going to go with Mercury in Cancer first. They're very much about their feelings and their emotions. So if the tone someone uses is off, a Mercury in Cancer will most likely pick up on that. So if a Mars in Capricorn comes across as too demanding, too authoritative, cold, distant, a Mercury in Cancer person will most likely pick up on that, possibly retreat, or they could just outwardly say, you are being this way, right? They could communicate their feelings. Maybe it does depend on their comfort levels within the relationship, but their feelings are basically going to come into the equation, right? And so if a Mars in Capricorn can recognize the feelings of a Mercury in Cancer and be more open and gentle and supportive, then yes, they can work really, really well. Now, with the same token, however, right, we want to think about this from the other point of view. If a Mercury in Cancer is being too demanding of the Mars in Capricorn, as the Mars in Capricorn maybe says, look, I have this to do today. I have this on my schedule. This is the plan that I have today, the plan of action I have. But if at any moment the Mercury in Cancer overlooks that by saying, you don't care about me, you're not supportive towards me, you're always doing this, you're always doing that, and then to the Mars in Capricorn, that can seem really, really needy. It can seem really needy, and it can seem a bit manipulative as well. Yeah, so again, this could be where a Mercury in Cancer could learn a thing or two about respecting the Mars in Capricorn's time, their schedules, their planning, and so on. And yes, at the same time, the Mars in Capricorn, if they are so work focused, so work driven, that they're not nurturing the relationship they have with the Mercury in Cancer, they would need to look at that within themselves as well. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes today's video, all about Mars-Mercury aspects in Synastry, using a couple of examples. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you learned something new, that you got to learn about the conjunction and the opposition. But if you would like to learn about the sextile, trine, and square, they are all available exclusively for our channel members below. You will gain access to all members only videos over there. To join, just click the join button below. Though in the meantime, I hope this video taught you more about Synastry. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for more. and I will catch you in the next one.